Social media has become increasingly intertwined throughout many of our lives in the past couple of decades. While many of us would have a hard time living without a car, many of us would also have an even harder time living without social media. Websites like Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and others have become more than just a way to connect to relatives or old friends. For some, it's allowed us to gain an audience for our creative works. For others, it's become integral to our jobs and careers. However, in the past couple of years, I've noticed a very worrying trend among the big social media players. While virtually all of them offer their services for free, it's becoming increasingly clear that there's nothing you can get without a cost. And the cost of some of these social media platforms are steep. I plan to go deep into the nuts and bolts of how these social media platforms operate and just what they've done to our lives. How they shaped human interaction, creativity, our understanding of our rights, and internet privacy as a whole. The things that I've discovered about many of these platforms in my research and over the years legitimately does frighten me. And I say that as someone who has built a career through social media. These things need to be brought to the public in a clear, concise manner. In this project that I call Technocracy, I plan on doing that. Like a democracy is the rule of the people, technocracy is the rule of technology. And make no mistake, the social media platforms do control much of our lives, whether we know it or not, whether we accept it or not. And unlike actual politicians or leaders of a country, the leaders of these social media platforms are often left without accountability. In this 8-part series, I plan to show you what these social media platforms are, what they've done, and what they eventually could be. YouTube was originally created in 2005 as a dating website of all things that has grown larger than many people could have possibly imagined or controlled. As a person whose career relies on YouTube, my relationship with the platform has gone from uneasy to downright frightened. Up until recently, my distaste has come from things like removing annotations and making other updates that just make the site worse for its users. However, YouTube's behavior has gotten increasingly disgusting, to the point where I can hardly use its service without a guilty conscience. Going through everything that YouTube has done would take over an hour, so we'll stick to the major issues. We'll start with one of the most infamous faux pas. Google+. Google+ is a platform made to compete against the juggernaut that is Facebook. However, no one really wanted to use it, and it looked like Google+ was on its way to becoming like Google Buzz, the Twitter competitor that Google had made that had also failed. Google made it so that to even comment on a YouTube page, you needed to sign up for a Google+ account, something that even the creator of YouTube was not happy about. There were many protests at the time. You still might be able to find comments about Bob building an army in order to take this on. However, Bob did not succeed, and the integration was messy to say the least. It led to the rise of many people impersonating the channel owner to do things like link people to viruses. Old comments could not be replied to, leading to the context of conversations being completely lost. People would write entire novel texts out in comments, and troll comments rose to the top of pages, as they were listed as comments that generated the most discussion. To this day, the dislike button on comments does literally nothing, as it's an artifact of this change. This is all because Google wanted their non-functional service to look better than Facebook. However, in 2018, it was finally discontinued. This is because the user data of a platform that people were forced to join was exposed. Google had known about this issue since March. They officially shut down Google+ in October, after it happened a second time. Removing the integration was such an endeavor that they had to bring the website down in order to remove it. People's names, email addresses, occupations, ages, and whatever Google+ collected was leaked for anyone to do whatever they wanted with. This happened because Google was more concerned with having a bigger number than Facebook, rather than having a quality product. If anything, the Google+ integration shows the lack of concern that the platform has for its users. At some point, you should look up the story of New Coke.
But America's emotional ties to Coca-Cola would be strained as never before during 80 fateful days in 1985.
What was happening in the mid-80s was the market for sugar cola was a declining market. And so folks for the first time began to question whether or not people had actually become tired of the taste of Coca-Cola. Had we finally reached a point a century after its introduction that, maybe folks are just tired of this flavor.
When the Coca-Cola company found that their sales were falling, they decided to change up their classic recipe to better compete with Pepsi. This backfired massively.
New Coke was launched in a confident blaze of publicity. But public reaction was immediate and negative.
All of the taste tests said people preferred the taste of this new product to the century-old product. What they hadn't factored in was the huge emotional attachment there was to this brand.
It didn't attract any new customers and it alienated old ones, so Coca-Cola had to roll back this product, and to this day you can still find original taste printed on every single can. After the product was returned to normal, Coca-Cola did have a massive surge in profits. Some people think that that was the plan and it was all just a marketing tactic, but just because that was the effect doesn't mean that that was the intention. Either way, the point is that consumers used to care a great deal about invasive changes to the products that they had become accustomed to. It's hard to think of something like that happening in this day and age, especially when it comes to getting any website to change. This is because that many of them have a virtual monopoly. True, YouTube is not the only video sharing website. However, it is one of the few that is actually able to pay its users, at a 40-60% cut. Several factors prevent other websites from competing with YouTube, and while it doesn't have a literal monopoly, it has a virtual monopoly. YouTube runs on a loss. Because the parent company Alphabet makes money through its search engine, it can employ the Walmart strategy. Lose money on one product specifically to cut down on competition. Other competitors have come and they have fallen. Zipcast failed because it didn't have the infrastructure to compete with YouTube, and VidMe failed because it couldn't get a good advertising service up in time, one that went around AdSense. AdSense is owned by Google, which owns YouTube, and it's the biggest advertising service on the internet, and something that wouldn't really want to promote competition, like VidMe. The landscape of the internet is also quite different in this day and age than the landscape that YouTube was created in, making it a lot more difficult for legitimate competitors to rise up. YouTube gained a lot of its initial audience via copyright infringement. A lot of people came to the site in order to watch old clips from shows they had watched growing up. Any website like that nowadays is going to have to face great legal difficulties. While you can find a lot of illegal uploads in places like Dailymotion, you have to remember that Dailymotion is a French company, which is in the European Union, which is on its way to passing Article 13, which will kill Dailymotion, the second biggest competitor next to YouTube. The other reason it's hard for another YouTube to sprout up is because of personality. People came to the website for clips of shows, but they stayed for the personalities. These were people like the Angry Video Game Nerd or Filthy Frank. They made YouTube what it is for quite a while. However, now that YouTube is so big that it's attracting mainstream media, they decided that they're too good for these personalities. So we now hear news like swearing cuts all ad rates by 50%. Unfortunately, most creators cannot go to another platform because the little that YouTube does offer and the less and less they do offer is still more than the competition. YouTube used to create celebrities. Now it worships them. And one of the most disgusting practices of YouTube as a company is how it continually sells out its creators. When the Wall Street Journal took out-of-context clips of PewDiePie to make him appear anti-Semitic, YouTube immediately cut all ties with him. His Scare PewDiePie Season 2 was cancelled. This is the same website that decided to release The Thinning sequel, a movie that starred another YouTuber, Logan Paul. This YouTuber had gone to the Japanese suicide forest and filmed a dead body. Keep in mind that both of these productions were finished by the time that one was cancelled and one wasn't. The only difference is that one of them didn't have the Wall Street Journal attacking them. Why is that? I can only assume it's because he got plenty of criticism from within the community. And you can't make a case that YouTube is a horrible place if someone who does horrible things is criticized from within the community. This is why mainstream media is never going to attack people like Leafy is Here or Keemstar. In the meantime, while YouTube was cutting down on the monetization of slightly edgy YouTubers, a new trend started to emerge: finger family videos. Spider-Man and Elsa videos, and other content that showed famous characters doing very disturbing things like urinating on each other or jabbing each other with needles. They became increasingly prominent as people profited over exploiting their algorithm, and these were detected as family-friendly. Toddlers were often left to just watching these videos because of autoplay, and their numbers skyrocketed into the millions. It took years for YouTube to do anything about this. despite these videos being repeatedly called out by its user base. If YouTube did not have double standards, it would have no standards. When Casey Neistat tried to make a video where all the money raised would go to a charity of the victims of a shooting, YouTube demonetized it, saying that that particular subject matter was not allowed to be monetized on their platform. However, when Jimmy Kimmel talked about a mass shooting, on their platform, it was allowed to be monetized, even though none of that money was going to charity. One thing that's going to come up time and time again is that many of these big companies use learning algorithms for specific things that you should absolutely not use learning algorithms for. Learning algorithms have a very specific goal, and they keep trying to achieve that goal. If they reach a fail state, they try something else. This leads to many false positives, especially towards the beginning. You can see this in action with seeing a learning AI try to beat a video game, for instance, like Super Mario Bros. However, when the goal is something that requires context, like human interaction and speech, then the end goal can't really be reached, since the end goal changes constantly. If a company says that they are using a learning AI in order to figure out what obeys the rules of their platform, you should be very concerned and expect it to not work, especially at the beginning. It may eventually hit a somewhat reasonable level, but only after months and months of false positives, which is why YouTube did not tell its users about the monetization algorithm until months and months after it had already been demonetizing users in secret. One of YouTube's biggest problems among its user base is how secretive it is about a lot of its practices. When criticized of a real or perceived error, they run experiments. Many users believed that they were losing subscribers whenever they uploaded something. It appeared to be some kind of glitch, since users lost hundreds or thousands of subscribers all at once, like at the exact same time, and they would continually be gaining subscribers on any day that they would not upload. YouTube then uploaded a video where, in an experiment, where they determined that this was not a glitch and people were legitimately losing subscribers in this very sketchy way. How many accounts did you think that they checked? About 100. Currently, there are about 1.5 billion people with a registered YouTube account. 100 accounts is less than 1% of 1% of all of the YouTube accounts that exist. But maybe their study was rigorous, despite its small sample size. Unfortunately, we will never know, because unlike real scientists who do real experiments, YouTube does not release their data for peer review. So it's impossible for the public to determine if they're lying in these experiments. We do not know any of the 100 channels that were checked. We do not even know if this experiment was really conducted at all. YouTuber burnout became a huge concern. As the algorithm demanded making more videos and making them faster, many creatives increasingly got burned out. When YouTuber Jaden Animations made a video about burnout, the YouTube creator Twitter account was quick to mention that YouTubers should never feel pressure to keep working endlessly. The problem with that is that by not keeping an upload schedule that's not possible for one person or even a small team to keep, the YouTube account will stop being recommended and all growth will be staggered. Some people can survive on long shortages, but for most people, making one video every 2 weeks is unsustainable, as the algorithm demands things every week, every day. And as this treadmill sped up, we face more and more stories of YouTuber burnout. Another thing that YouTubers have to deal with is the site's copyright system. YouTube is allowed to exist through something called the DMCA safe harbor provisions. This means that they won't get in trouble for copyrighted material hosted on their platform, as long as they give the option for companies to take it down. This has been implemented in the worst ways possible. This system is supposed to keep YouTube out of trouble, but due to some aspects of it, it may push YouTube to actually breaking the safe harbor provisions law. When a video is uploaded, it may be tagged by copyright ID, or the copyright owner may manually claim it. The copyright owner can then do a couple of things. They can issue a strike immediately, they can block the video in some or all countries, or they can monetize it themselves. The system, however, is notorious for its errors. Random things can and will be claimed. People have gotten copyright claims for uploading their own songs that they have composed. Classical music, which is in the public domain, is especially prone to getting copyright claimed. At one point, even the sound of rain had been claimed. When a video is claimed, the user can dispute it. However, it's up to the copyright holder to determine if that claim is or isn't valid. Now, to be fair, some companies do remove their claim at this step, but there really is no incentive except goodwill among their audience to do this. After this, the user must once again dispute. However, it's exactly the same as before. The copyright holder is the one who determines if this claim is valid. There is just one minor difference though. If the company thinks the video is not fair use, that one video that they said isn't fair use twice already, the video will go down and the owner of the video will receive a strike. However, the video doesn't have to go down immediately. The copyright holder can choose to take the video down in, say, a week. During this time, the YouTuber cannot speed up the process, and the copyright holder collects all the ad revenue, and there's literally nothing that can be done. The YouTuber can cancel their dispute and prevent the video from going down, but to do that prevents them from ever challenging on that video again. Also, this option is kind of illegal, at least if YouTube wants safe harbor provisions. The safe harbor must expeditiously remove or block access to the allegedly infringing material. and taking the video down in 1 or 2 weeks when you have the ability to take it down immediately is not expeditious. The point of being able to take down the video immediately is to stop duplicates from popping up. And if you don't care about duplicates from popping up, then you don't care about preventing copyright infringement. Even beyond this, copyright holders continually abuse their power, completely going against the idea of fair use. This takedown system has often been used to silence critics of work by malicious artists, developers, or designers. Sega of Japan once used the takedown system to get rid of videos of Shining Force 3, a game that had been out and unclaimed for decades, so that their brand new game would have better search ranking. Of course, if a video is put back up, all the company needs to do is claim the video again under a new name. Many of my own videos that were claimed and put back up by Viacom were then claimed by Viacom B. This has also led to a cottage industry of AdSense companies that exist just to claim the AdSense off of videos, the most notorious of which is AdRev for a third party, and they can get feisty to the point of taking down videos that were already put back up. This has happened to no less than 2 of my own videos. At least some of them actually work for the copyright owners. Some of these companies just create shell names to collect money off of other people's ad revenue. This is more than just an annoyance though. This is people's livelihood that can be at stake. YouTube may not be the most difficult job in the world, but it still is a job. At every single venture, though, it seems that making a living through the website becomes increasingly harder, increasingly pointless. If it's not the copyright ID system, it's the algorithm that forgets to factor in the human element. If it's not that, it's the demonetization system. As I've stated, some YouTubers have built their entire personality on being a little risque or a little edgy. Their choices now are to keep doing what they do to retain their audience and end up getting no money, or change what they're doing and get no audience. However, the worst part about working on YouTube is that you could be terminated at any time for any reason. Now, this is true of many jobs, but when it comes to YouTube, since the computer usually determines who gets deleted, many people have been deleted in error. This deletion issue has become so rampant that it's more or less become a rite of passage for your YouTube account to be randomly deleted. It has happened to many of even big accounts. Even people like the Angry Video Game Nerd have had their account deleted out of nowhere. I myself have had it happen. The channel I Hate Everything had it happen twice. And keep in mind, these are the big channels, the names that you've heard of. There are many more whose reach didn't get large enough by the time that they've had their channel deleted, and they had to start over from scratch or just give up. YouTube recently deleted 58 million videos. Considering their accuracy on other metrics, and the fact that YouTube gives no names or evidence of the deleted videos, I can only assume that many of them were deleted falsely, and quite a few innocent people have lost their jobs. One recently deleted channel is that of Monkey Jones. If you don't know who he is, in general, he's a comedian. He's more on the edgy side, but it's hard to argue that he's not a comedian. He wasn't extreme in that regard either. And I do want to reiterate, edgy content, like Filthy Frank or Tourette's Guy, is what put YouTube on the map. No matter how ashamed they are of this fact, it is a fact. Mumkey's most prominent video series were his survival guide series, where he made guides to surviving hurricanes, communism, capitalism, etc., and the parody of the Nickelodeon sitcom Ned's Declassified School Survival Guide. His other series was videos on the shooter Elliot Rodger, which is what got him booted from the platform. However, these videos were in a documentary style, which should be allowed by the terms of service. They went out of their way to understand what kind of a person would do the things that Elliot Rodger did. This wasn't the first time that Mumkey's channel was deleted. The first time it happened, YouTube themselves said that their deletion of his channel was a mistake, and his channel was restored. This time, though, they've determined through a personal conversation that his channel deserved to be deleted, even though one of the videos deleted was a private video that had 0 views. This appears to be very targeted. On the flip side, there was a YouTuber in Chile who had filmed himself brutally murdering a pet cat. At the time of writing this video, his channel is still up, despite the community outcry. It's no wonder that there's been an increasing amount of outrage towards YouTube as a platform. It isn't about minor interface changes. It is about a stunning failure to act, and a continual onslaught of selective enforcement. The Rewind this year, which is supposed to showcase all the wonderful things on the platform, had become the most disliked video in history in a total of 8 days. People are angry about Mumkey's deletion. Even the top YouTuber, PewDiePie, talked about this, but it's become increasingly apparent that change is not going to come. It really is great here on YouTube. In order to get big, you need to upload at a rate that's only possible with a team, and keep bumping up your quality or your fans will stop watching you, and after a few videos unseen, YouTube will stop alerting them to you altogether. You need to face glitches that cause your anxiety to spike, all the while YouTube is more concerned with changing the layout than fixing the glitches. And you've got to hope that you can get big quickly enough or your channel will be deleted. But don't get too big, because the media will take everything you've ever said out of context, and then YouTube itself will throw you under the bus. YouTube to me serves as a testament that no matter how much users of a social media platform complain, how right that they may be, these websites and these companies will not care. They will do whatever they want without any input from the people who use their platform, and there's nothing that anyone can do. Regardless if this leads to people's data getting exposed. Regardless if this puts people's livelihoods at stake. Regardless if this leads to excessive amounts of burnout. Regardless of how many people who feel comfortable abusing animals and even people feel safe using this platform. Regardless of even their own public image. They're going to drive this Titanic straight into the iceberg because that's where they believe the money is. And we're all trapped on board with them.